Have you ever wondered why some people just seem to get ahead more easily than others? It's not always about money or raw talent. There's something else at play, a hidden currency that opens doors and creates opportunities. The French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu called this cultural capital. Today, we're going to break down this powerful concept in a simple, visual way. Let's dive in. Imagine two people, person A and person B. They both start out with the same goal, to succeed in society, but their journeys will look very different, and it all comes down to the cultural capital they possess. First, let's define it. Cultural capital is the collection of social assets like education, skills, knowledge, and even the way you speak and act that help you navigate and succeed in a particular social environment. Bourdieu split it into three main types. The first type is embodied cultural capital. This is the stuff that becomes a part of you. It's not something you can just buy or hand over to someone else. Think about the way you talk. Do you use a wide vocabulary? Do you have a certain accent? That's embodied capital. It's also your posture, your manners, the way you carry yourself. Let's look at person A from a young age. Person A was surrounded by books. Their parents read to them every night, discussed current events at the dinner table, and encouraged intellectual curiosity. They were taken to museums, art galleries, and the theater. Over time, all these experiences become ingrained. Person A develops a natural ease in academic and professional settings. They know how to articulate their thoughts clearly, how to engage in sophisticated conversation, and how to appreciate fine art. It's all second nature. This is their embodied capital, built up over years of exposure and practice. It's like a muscle. They've been training their whole life without even realizing it. Now, let's consider person B. Person B grew up in a different environment. Maybe their parents worked long hours and didn't have as much time for bedtime stories. Maybe their community didn't have access to museums or theaters. Person B is just as intelligent and capable as person A, but they haven't had the same opportunities to accumulate this specific type of embodied capital. When they enter a university or a corporate boardroom, they might feel like they're speaking a different language. They have to work harder to understand the unspoken rules and codes of conduct that come so naturally to person A. This one is a bit more straightforward. It refers to the physical objects you own that signify cultural value. This could be a collection of classic literature, a piece of fine art hanging on your wall, a high-end musical instrument, or even a degree from a prestigious university framed in your office. Back to our example. Person A's family home is filled with these objects. They have a library of books, artwork, and maybe a grand piano in the living room. These aren't just decorations. They are tools for acquiring more cultural capital. Person A can read the books, learn to play the piano, and discuss the art with guests. These objects signal to others that person A comes from a cultured background. When person A applies for a job and lists their Ivy League degree, that degree is a piece of objectified capital. It's a physical certificate that represents years of accumulated knowledge and a certain social standing. Person B, on the other hand, may not have these objects. Their home might be more focused on practical necessities rather than cultural artifacts. They might own a guitar, but not a Steinway piano. They might love reading but get their books from the local library instead of owning a personal collection. When person B gets their degree from a state college, it's still a huge accomplishment and a valuable piece of objectified capital. But in some elite circles, it might not carry the same weight or open the same doors as person A's degree. The objects themselves hold and transmit cultural value. Finally, we have the third type, institutionalized cultural capital. This is when cultural capital is formally recognized by an institution. The most common example is an academic credential or a professional license. It's society's official stamp of approval on your knowledge and skills. Person A, with their strong embodied and objectified capital, finds it relatively easy to navigate the education system. The language of the classroom is familiar. The expectations are clear. They excel in school, get into a top university, and earn a degree. That degree is their institutionalized cultural capital. It's a powerful signal to employers and society at large. It says this person has been vetted. They have the approved knowledge and skills. They belong here. This credential can be converted into economic capital, a high-paying job. Person B also works hard and earns a degree. Their institutionalized capital is just as valid, but their path might have been tougher. They had to learn the rules of the game as they went along, and depending on the institution that awarded the degree, it may be perceived as less prestigious by some gatekeepers. So, while both Person A and Person B have institutionalized capital in the form of a degree, the value of that capital can be judged differently based on the institution's reputation, which is often linked back to the other forms of capital. Now, let's see how this all plays out in the real world. Imagine Person A and Person B are both interviewing for the same competitive job. The interview goes beyond just technical questions. The hiring manager asks about their hobbies, their favorite books, and what they did last weekend. Person A, drawing on their embodied capital, talks confidently about a recent trip to an art exhibit and shares an insightful opinion on a classic novel. This conversation flows naturally. They connect with the interviewer on a cultural level. The interviewer sees Person A not just as a qualified candidate, but as a good fit for the company culture. Person B, when asked the same questions, might talk about their love for video games or a local community event they attended. These are perfectly valid and interesting hobbies, but they might not align with the interviewer's specific cultural expectations. Even if Person B has superior technical skills, the lack of a shared cultural language can create a subtle barrier. The interviewer might unconsciously perceive Person A as more sophisticated, more polished, and ultimately a better choice. This is the power of cultural capital. It operates in subtle, often invisible ways. It's not about being better or worse. It's about fitting into a specific social field. Bourdieu used the term field to describe different social arenas, like the art world, the academic world, or the business world. Each field has its own rules and values, and to succeed, you need the right kind of capital. What Person A possesses is the dominant form of cultural capital, the one that is most valued in the powerful fields of society, like elite education and corporate leadership. Person B's cultural capital is just as legitimate, but it might be more valued in other fields, perhaps in their local community or a specific subculture. The problem arises when one form of cultural capital is treated as the universal standard, and everyone is judged by it. This is how social inequality gets reproduced from one generation to the next. Children from families with high cultural capital, like Person A, inherit a huge advantage. They are set up for success in the dominant systems. Children from families with different types of cultural capital, like Person B, have to work much harder to compete in those same systems. So, what can we do? The first step is awareness. Understanding the concept of cultural capital helps us see the invisible structures that shape our lives and opportunities. It allows us to recognize that merit isn't always a level playing field. It encourages us to question why certain tastes, manners, and credentials are valued more than others. For institutions like schools and workplaces, it means being more intentional about recognizing and valuing different forms of cultural capital. It means creating more inclusive environments where people like Person B, Dan T, have to change who they are to feel like they belong. It's about broadening our definition of what valuable knowledge and skills look like. And for individuals, like Person B, it's about recognizing the value in your own experiences while also strategically acquiring the types of capital needed to navigate the fields you want to enter. It's not about abandoning your own culture, but about becoming bilingual fluent in your own cultural language and also in the dominant one. Cultural capital is a complex but crucial idea for understanding our world. It's the invisible currency that shapes our interactions, our opportunities, and our life paths. It's the difference in the journeys of Person A and Person B. By making this concept visible, we can start to challenge its effects and work towards a society where everyone has a fair chance to succeed, regardless of the cultural currency they were born with. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this explanation helpful, please give this video a like and subscribe for more deep dives into big ideas. Let me know in the comments what you think about cultural capital. Have you seen it in action in your own life? I'd love to hear your stories. See you in the next video.